Eyes widened across the plantation's great hall as Mrs. Eleanor Hargrove clasped her daughter Lydia's delicate hand and pressed it firmly into the rough, powerful grip of Jacob, the estate's mightiest field hand. Gasps rippled through the assembled household, servants frozen mid-step, overseers clutching their hats, even the wind seeming to hold its breath outside the tall windows. No one moved, no one spoke. Why would a woman of her standing bind her only child to a man born in chains? Lydia trembled, her silk gown whispering against the polished oak floor, but she did not pull away. Eleanor's face remained a mask of resolve, her blue eyes locking onto Jacob's steady gaze. He stood tall, shoulders broad from years bending the earth to the harvest, his simple linen shirt stretched taut over muscles forged in unyielding labor. Whispers had long circled him, the strongest, they said, unbreakable under the lash or the plough. Yet now, in this moment, his dark eyes flickered with something unspoken, a shadow of understanding that chilled the air. If this tale of hidden motives and unbreakable bonds has you hooked already, hit that subscribe button, share with a friend, and drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. Let's build this community together. Eleanor released their joined hands, stepping back as if sealing an ancient pact. "It is done," she declared, her voice cutting through the hush like a blade through silk. The room erupted then, not in cheers, but in a murmur of confusion. Mr. Hargrove, her husband, lurked in the corner, his face twisted in restrained fury, fists clenched at his sides. He had built this empire on cotton fields stretching to the horizon, on the backs of men like Jacob. To give their prized daughter to one of them, madness or strategy, no one knew which. Jacob bowed his head slightly, his voice low and measured. "I will honor this, ma'am, with my life." Lydia glanced up at him, her cheeks flushing, questions burning in her emerald eyes. She had always been the jewel of the estate, schooled in Paris fashions, promised to a Charleston suitor with lands of his own. Now, this. Her mother's hand lingered on her shoulder a moment longer, a silent command to accept. Days blurred into a tense rhythm. Jacob moved Lydia to the modest quarters behind the big house, a space once reserved for favored hands. Whispers spread like kudzu through the fields. Betrayal, desperation, a mother's folly. Eleanor watched from her veranda each evening, sipping tea as the sun dipped low, painting the rows of white bowls in gold. She saw the way Lydia hesitated at doorways, the way Jacob built a fire with quiet efficiency, his presence a wall against the world's judgments. But tension coiled tighter. Mr. Hargrove confronted her one moonlit night in the study, his ledger books scattered like fallen soldiers. "What game is this, Eleanor? You've shamed us all. That boy, Jacob, he's no match for her. He'll drag her down to the dirt." His words hung heavy, laced with the scent of bourbon from his flask. Eleanor met his stare unflinchingly. "Shame? Or salvation? You've mortgaged our future to debts we can't pay, Harlan. The banks circle like vultures. Lydia deserves more than ruin." He laughed bitterly, a sound that echoed off the panelled walls. "And you think wedding her to a slave saves us? Laws forbid it. You'll have to free him first, cost us a fortune we don't have." Eleanor's lips curved faintly. "Freedoms have prices, Harlan, but so does pride." She turned away, leaving him to stew in the lamplight, his plans unraveling thread by thread. Jacob, meanwhile, navigated the minefield with caution. He worked the fields at dawn, his strength turning stubborn soil to bounty, but evenings belonged to Lydia. She paced their small room, firing questions like sparks. Why did she do this? Mother never explained. Is it pity? Punishment? Jacob knelt by the hearth, poking embers to life. "Your mother sees further than most. Trust takes time, Miss Lydia." His words were sparse, deliberate, each one chosen to soothe without revealing. Yet doubts gnawed at her. Walks through the orchard revealed glimpses of her old life, friends riding by in carriages, casting sidelong glances of pity or scorn. One afternoon, young Thomas Beaumont, her former suitor, reined in his horse at the fence line. "Lydia, this is beneath you. Come away with me. Your mother's lost her senses." She froze, heart pounding, Jacob appearing silently at her side like a sentinel. Thomas sneered. "And you, stay in your place." Jacob's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, his silence a thunderclap. That night Lydia confronted Eleanor in the herb garden, twilight weaving shadows through the lavender rose. "Mother, explain this madness. Jacob is kind, strong, but he's... him. What have you done to my life?" Eleanor's hands paused on the shears, her voice steady as the earth. "Life isn't ball gowns and promises, child. It's survival. Jacob carries a secret that will save us all. Watch. Learn." Lydia stormed off, frustration boiling, unaware of the eyes tracking her from the fields. Secrets indeed simmered beneath the surface. Jacob had arrived at the estate a decade prior, purchased from a river trader who spoke of his uncommon skills, not just brawn, but a mind sharp as a scythe. Whispers among the hands hinted at education smuggled in the night, letters from distant kin up north. Eleanor had noticed early the way he tallied yields without paper, predicted storms by the stars. Harlan dismissed it as luck. She saw potential. Pressure mounted as creditors arrived, their boots thudding on the porch like judgments. Mr. Hargrove bartered fiercely, but fields lay fallow from poor rains, debts swelled. One evening, as thunder rumbled distant, he cornered Jacob in the barn. "You think this changes anything? She's not yours. I'll see to that." Jacob straightened, pitchfork in hand, eyes unyielding. "The lady decided, sir. I serve her will." Harlan's face purpled, but he backed away, plotting in shadows. Lydia began to see glimmers. Jacob taught her the land's rhythms, where soil yielded richest, how to read debts in ledger margins he'd glimpsed. One dawn, she found him sketching field maps by lantern light, innovations that could double harvests. "How do you know this?" she whispered. He hesitated. "Books, hidden ones. Freedom of the mind comes first." Her world tilted. Strength wasn't just muscle, it was vision. Eleanor observed it all, her cries withheld until the perfect storm. Harlan's gambit came under harvest moon, a deal to sell half the estate, Lydia included in the bargain to seal it. She overheard in the parlor, his voice oily with false charm. "The girl's hand sweetens the pot, Elias. You'll have her and the North Fields." Rage ignited. She burst in, documents scattering. "No, she's bound to Jacob, legally witnessed." Chaos followed. Harlan lunged, but Jacob materialized, blocking the door, his frame an immovable force. "Step aside," Harlan growled. Jacob's response was calm steel. "No, sir." Fists flew in the dim light, short, brutal exchanges. Harlan staggered back, winded, reality crashing down. In the aftermath, as stars wheeled overhead, Eleanor pulled Lydia aside in the quiet garden. Tears ally traced her cheeks, glistening like dew. "You wondered why? Jacob isn't just strong. He's the architect. Those maps, they'll reclaim our lands. He's freed, papers signed last year hidden for this, your union. It binds him to us, legally, beyond chains. Harlan's debts dissolve under new yields, but most, he carries my brother's blood. Your uncle, lost northward. Family child, real strength." Lydia's breath caught. No one understood the tears, not the household, not Harlan seething in defeat. They saw weakness. Eleanor saw triumph, forged in silence and strategy. Jacob joined them, handing Lydia's naturally now. The estate breathed anew, tensions easing into resolve, yet shadows lingered, whispers persisted. Harlan plotted exile, but roots ran deep. If you're gripped by this unfolding drama, smash that like button, subscribe for the next chapter of Secrets and Strength, share with someone who needs this tension, and comment your thoughts below. What would you do in Lydia's place? The fields promised bounty, but true tests awaited. Lydia's boots sank into the soft earth as she trudged alongside the rows of cotton, the sun carving sharp shadows across less white sea. Elias moved ahead, his broad shoulders cutting through the stalks like a blade through silk. He never glanced back, not once. The overseer's whip cracked in the distance, a reminder that eyes watched from every ridge. She wiped sweat from her brow, her jers trembling. Why had her mother done this? The decision hung between them like an unspoken storm. Lydia had always been the fragile bloom of the estate, sheltered, educated in parlours with books from Europe, now bound to the fields by her mother's decree, paired with Elias, the man whose strength bent iron and broke chains in silence. The other hands whispered. They saw a punishment, a fall from grace. But Lydia sensed layers beneath. Elias paused out of the row, stacking bowls into a sack with mechanical precision. His hands, calloused and unyielding, dwarfed the fibers. "Keep pace," he said, voice low as gravel. No warmth, no explanation. Lydia nodded, forcing her steps faster. The air thickened with the scent of earth and exertion. Behind them, the big house loomed, its columns like teeth in the horizon. That night, as stars pierced the sky, Lydia sat by the fire in the quarters. Flames danced, casting flickers on faces etched by labor. Elias sharpened a tool across from her, his eyes fixed on the blade. The others kept distance, their murmurs fading into the crackle. She leaned forward. "Why do they fear you?" He didn't look up. The whetstone scraped rhythmically. Strength invites envy. Envy breeds distance. A pause. The fire popped. "Your mother chose wisely." Lydia's pulse quickened. Wisely. The word twisted in her gut. Her mother's tears that all morning, silent streams down porcelain cheeks, had baffled the estate. Servants puzzled. Her father raged in the study. Yet here she was, in the heart of it all. She wept as if losing everything. Elias set the tool aside. His gaze met hers, dark and unreadable. "Some losses forge what's hidden." He rose, vanishing into the shadows of his cabin. Lydia stared into the embers, questions coiling tighter, days blurred into a relentless rhythm. Dawn hauled them to the fields. Elias led, his endurance a force that pulled the crew forward. Lydia matched him, blisters forming shields on her palms. She watched him lift fallen branches, muscles straining under scarred skin. Whispers from the hands grew bolder. "He'll break her spirit," one muttered. Another, "Or she'll tame the untamable." One afternoon, a storm brewed low on the horizon. Clouds swelled, dark and pregnant. The overseer barked orders to secure the harvest. Elias moved like lightning, bundling stacks against the wind. Lydia struggled with a heavy load, the first drop stinging her arms. A gust ripped the bundle free, scattering bowls across the mud. She lunged, slipped, the earth rushed up, but Elias was there, arm extended, pulling her upright in one fluid motion. Their eyes locked, inches apart, his grip firm, unyielding. "Steady," he breathed. Thunder rolled, rain lashed down, turning soil to rivers. They worked through it, soaked and silent. Back at quarters, Lydia shivered by the fire. Elias tossed her a dry cloth without a word. She wrapped it around her shoulders. Gratitude swelled, mixed with something sharper, curiosity. "You've never asked why I'm here." He poked the flames. "Reasons reveal themselves. Patience carves truth." Her mind raced back to the big house. Mother's owl words, "Trust the strength that endures." Cryptic, haunting. Lydia had dismissed them as delirium. Now they echoed. Weeks ground on. Tension simmered in stolen moments. Elias taught her the field's secrets, where roots hid deepest water, how to read the wind's warning. She shared fragments of her world, poems by candlelight, melodies from her mother's piano. He listened, absorbed, never interrupted. One evening, as the crew gathered for supper, a shadow fell across the fire. The overseer, Mr. Hale, stepped forward, his lantern swinging. "Elias, a word." His tone sliced the air. The hands froze, bowls midway to lips. Lydia's heart hammered. Hale's visits never brought good. Rumours swirled of his grudge, Elias's quiet defiance in past harvests, yields unmatched yet unchecked. Hale jabbed a jur. Pushing limits again, master's patience thins. Elias stood slow, towering. Fields yield what they yield. Hale's face reddened. Tomorrow you test the mill alone, see if strength holds. He spat into the dirt, turned on his heel. The crew exhaled. Whispers reignited. Lydia caught Elias's eye. Defiance flickered there, banked like coals. Dawn broke harsh. The mill loomed at the estate's edge, a grinding beast of wood and stone. Elias entered alone, as ordered. Lydia slipped away from her row, drawn by an invisible thread. She hid behind bales, peering through cracks. Gears groaned to life, sacks fed in, cotton emerginger than mist. Elias wrestled the levers, sweat gleaming. Hours passed. The machine stuttered, jammed, a low rumble built. Lydia's breath caught. The beam shifted, unbalanced. Elias lunged, muscles coiling like springs. Wood splintered, he held it, veins bulging, forcing the gears free. The jam cleared. Silence fell, broken only by his steady breaths. She emerged as he wiped his brow. You could have called for help. His smile was faint, first she'd seen. Strength isn't shown in ease. Back in the fields, whispers shifted, respect edged in. But Hale's eyes narrowed from afar. Nights deepened the bond. By firelight, Elias spoke of origins, distant shores, chains forged in greed, not bitterness, resolve. Lydia confessed her fears, the estate's fragility, father's debts mounting like shadows. Mother saw something in you, before anyone. He nodded. She watches still. Lydia frowned. Watches? From the big house porch, perhaps. But the certainty in his voice chilled her. Tension peaked at harvest's end. The estate buzzed with Judgment Day, weigh-ins under master's gaze. Elias's crew topped the scales, father's face twisted in reluctant approval. Mother's eyes, though, locked on Lydia, glistening. That night a summons came, Lydia to the big house. Elias shadowed her path unseen. In the parlour, mother waited, frail in silk. You've endured. Lydia knelt. Why him? Why this? Mother's hand trembled on hers. Debts choke us. Hale schemes to seize it all. Elias, he carries our blood. The words struck like lightning. Lydia recoiled. Blood? A nod. My secret. His father. Your grandfather's brother. Strength runs true. He alone can claim the estate, protect it from ruin. I bound you to forge the proof. Union seals inheritance. Lydia's world tilted. Tears pricked. Not grief, but revelation's edge. Elias, kin, partner in legacy. Outside, Elias waited in moonlight. She approached, voice steady. It's us against the storm. He took her hand, firm, unyielding. Always was. But Hale lurked in the shadows, his lantern a distant glow. Plans brewed, tests multiplied. The fields lay barren now, promising rebirth. Yet deeper trials stirred, loyalties tested, truths weaponized. Lydia glanced at Elias, strength mirrored in her stance. The estate's fate balanced on their next move. If this twist gripped you, hit that subscribe button, share with a friend chasing hidden truths, and drop a comment. From where are you watching this story unfold? Dawn crept over the ridges, carrying whispers of confrontation. Hale gathered men at the barn, voices low and urgent. Elias sensed it, his steps quickening toward the big house. Lydia followed, resolve hardening. Inside, father paced the study, papers scattered. Hale claims discrepancies, wants Elias gone. Mother interjected softly. He lies, the yields prove loyalty. Lydia stepped forward. Let Elias speak. Father eyed her, surprise flickering. Change brewed in her poise. Elias entered, calm as stone. "Master, the fields speak true. Test me further." Father leaned in. "How?" "Send me to the borders. Secure the outer plots from raiders." A bold stroke. Raiders plagued fringes, thieves stripping unattended land. Father hesitated, then nodded. "Go, prove." Hale burst in then, fury etched. "Reckless, he'll vanish with hands." Elias met his glare. "Fear what you can't control." Tension crackled. Father silenced them. Decided. Elias departed at first light, Lydia insisting on joining. They rode out, horses pounding earth. Miles stretched, forests thickening. By noon, signs appeared, broken fences, trampled crops, raiders' work. Elias dismounted, tracking. Lydia scanned horizons, rifle steady, a skill gleaned from him. Hoofbeats echoed, 5 riders emerged, rough and armed. Leader sneered. "Estate scraps, hand over." Elias stepped forward. "This land holds." Words turned to motion. The leader charged. Elias sidestepped, tackling low. Fists flew. Dust rose. Lydia fired a warning shot, scattering 2. She grappled another, elbow sharp. Chaos reigned. Punches landed. Grunts filled air. Elias rose, dominant, pinning the leader. "Leave or stay down." They fled, tails between legs. Back at estate, proof mounted. Recovered goods, raiders routed. Father beamed rare pride. Mother clasped Lydia's hand. Tears held. But Hale cornered Elias later. "This changes nothing. Secrets unravel." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Yours first." Lydia overheard, heart racing. Hale's scheme deepened. Perhaps forged ledgers, bribes to creditors. Nights brought strategy. Elias and Lydia pored over maps by candle. "He aims to fracture us," she said. "United we stand." Alliance solidified. Yet Mother's tears echoed, foreknowledge of pain. Harvest bounty filled coffers. Creditors retreated. Estate stabilized. One eve under oaks, Lydia faced Elias. "Blood ties us, but choice binds deeper." He drew her close. "Chosen long ago." Peace settled. Fragile. Hale vanished, dismissed, whispers said, but shadows lingered. Mother watched from porch, smile faint. Her cries, joy veiled in sacrifice, legacy secured, the estate thrived. Lydia and Elias walked fields, hands linked, strength not in chains but in roots entwined. True tests endured, bounty eternal. Loved this saga of hidden strength? Subscribe for more cinematic twists. Share if it hooked you and comment. What secret would you guard for legacy? Lives entwined. True tests endured. Bounty eternal. Josiah gripped the reins tighter as the wagon rattled over the uneven trail, the dense forest closing in like silent guardians. Clara huddled beside him, her shawl drawn close against the chill of uncertainty. Behind them, the plantation faded into whispers of magnolia and moss-draped oaks, but ahead lay shadows thick with promise and peril. Whispers of patrols echoed in every rustle, men who hunted the desperate, the dreamers fleeing chains both seen and unseen. Josiah's muscles, forged in fields under relentless sun, now served a fiercer purpose. He scanned the tree line. A branch snapped. His hand went to the hidden knife at his belt. They pressed on through the night. Clara's questions burned like embers. "Why did Mother choose you? Of all the souls on that estate, why entrust me to a man bound by irons?" Josiah's jaw set firm. He offered no easy words, only a glance that held volumes of unspoken burdens. Dawn broke grey and unforgiving. A river loomed ahead, swollen from recent rains, its currents a churning barrier between bondage and breath. No bridge, no ferry, just the raw gamble of crossing. He tied the wagon to a sturdy pine, slinging their scant provisions over his broad shoulder. "Hold to me," he murmured, voice low as gravel. Clara nodded, her gers digging into his arm, trust forged in the fire of farewell. The water rose to their waists, then chests. A log bobbed loose, slamming against Josiah's side. He shoved it away with brute force, legs pumping like pistons against the pull. Clara slipped once, gasping as the current clawed at her skirts. Josiah hauled her up, his breath ragged but unyielding. They clambered onto the far bank, soaked, alive. The first true test survived. Deeper into the wilds they ventured, where free folk gathered in hidden clearings. But freedom's edge cut sharp. Bounty hunters trailed scents like hounds drawn by whispers of runaways. One evening, as twilight bled into the canopy, hoofbeats thundered close. Josiah pulled Clara into a thicket, his body shielding hers. "Quiet as stone," he breathed. Riders passed within yards, rough voices barking orders, lanterns swinging like pendulums of doom. Minutes stretched to eternity. Sweat traced Josiah's temple. The thunder faded. They exhaled in unison. Nights blurred into days of evasion, meager meals of foraged roots and stolen glances that built fragile bridges. Clara's world, once framed by verandas and velvet gowns, cracked open. She saw Josiah not as the estate's unyielding laborer, strongest in the harvest trials, the log hauls, less toil, but as a mind sharpened by stolen books and midnight reckonings. He spoke of maps inked on memory, of networks snaking north like veins of hope. "Strength ain't just in arms," he said once, under stars indifferent to human strife. "It's in knowing when to bend, when to break free." A fever gripped Clara midway, born of chill waters and gnawing fear. Delirium brought visions of her mother's face, stern yet shattered at the parting. Beatrice had stood on the grand portico, estate looming like a fading monarch, as Josiah led Clara away. "Take her north," Beatrice had commanded, voice steel over splintering glass. Servants gawked, overseers muttered of madness. Why yield a delicate flower of the south to the mightiest of the bound? And then, as the wagon creaked into motion, Beatrice's composure fractured. Tears carved silent paths down her powdered cheeks. No sobs, no collapse, just those crystalline trails, witnessed by all, comprehended by none. Clara stirred from fever in a Quaker safehouse, Josiah's calloused hand cooling her brow with damp cloth. Gratitude swelled, tangled with questions. Mother's tears, they haunt me. Was it grief for losing me? Or shame in choosing you? Josiah's eyes, deep as riverbeds, flickered. He rose, pacing the dim cabin. Outside, wind moaned through pines, carrying echoes of pursuit. "Truths kept close grow heavy," he said a lie. "Your mother carried one heavier than most." He revealed it then, in measured tones, as if unburdening a lifelong yoke. Years before Clara's birth, Beatrice, young widow of the estate's master, had wandered the quarters one storm-lashed night. Solace found in Josiah's father, a man of towering frame and gentler spirit, overseer forgotten in the downpour. From that union came Josiah himself, hidden in plain sight, raised among the fields to shield the scandal. Beatrice watched him grow, her secret son, strongest by blood and will, enduring lashes unspoken for his fire. When ruin loomed, creditors circling like vultures, scheming to wed Clara to a debauched heir for debt settled, she saw clarity. Josiah, her blood the unyielding protector. Give Clara to him, not in chains of ownership, but in sacred trust. Flee together, preserve the line. Clara's breath caught. You, her son, my half-sibling, veiled in shadows of circumstance. Not for marriage's taboo, but protection's fierce embrace. Josiah nodded, the weight etching deeper lines on his face. She cried not for loss, but release. Years of guarding that secret, watching me toil as stranger. Parting with you freed us all, from lies, from the estate's rotting grasp. They evaded one-owl's snare, a blockade at the borderlands where false guides lured the weary into traps. Josiah's strength prevailed again, scaling a ravine unseen, Doubling back through briars that tore flesh without mercy, Clara matched him now, spirit-tempered. Dawn of the Free States broke golden. No chains, no overseers, just soil to claim, hands to build. Back south, Beatrice faced the storm alone. Creditors descended, stripping Willowbrook bare, furnishings auctioned, fields fallow. She stood unbowed, secrets interred with her dignity. Whispers painted her mad, the weeping fool who squandered legacy on a slave's whim. But in quiet hours, gazing north, she smiled faintly. Her choices, personal, forged in solitude, yielding a legacy unbound by ledgers. Seasons turned. Josiah and Clara carved a homestead from wilderness, crops thriving under hands entwined in purpose. Children came, faces blending worlds, strong as their forebears. Letters smuggled south spoke of bounty, harvests abundant, freedoms hard won. Beatrice received the last one under harvest moon. We endure, your gift eternal. She folded it gently, placing it with heirlooms faded. Twilight deepened. She chose her rest, whispers of magnolias her lullaby, legacy secured not in stone, but in lives launched true. Years on, Clara recounted the tale to wide-eyed young ones by firelight. Your grandmother wept for joy unspoken, for strength hidden that bent fate itself. Josiah nodded from his rocker, hands weathered but sure. Horizons once divided now merged. Tests endured, yielding fields of green promise. No fanfare, no saviors from afar, just resilience, raw and real, echoing across generations. The estate lady's enigma unraveled not in spectacle, but in quiet revelation, a mother's gambit, profound and piercing. Love this tale of veiled legacies and unbreakable bonds? Hit subscribe for more gripping cinematic journeys, share with a friend who craves depth, and comment below. From which corner of the world are you watching this channel?